Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, today we're going to look at verses 14 through 17 in Psalm 104. Psalm 104, we're doing this in two parts now, just remember that. So today we're going to end with 17, but next week we're going to come back, pick up in 18, and finish out the psalm. This is the psalm that I've entitled, Thou Art Very Great. As a matter of fact, I think that's a perfect title, probably what the psalmist would agree with, because he begins the psalm that way there in verse 1. Thou art very great. And he just describes the greatness of God, His mercy towards His creation, His grandeur in the creation itself. And he covers that in the first part, in that first section. And then we have, of course, the division about the psalmist speaking to God and then turning to his audience and speaking about God, beginning there in verse 10. Of course, he kind of comes back in verse 13, and he says, the earth is satisfied with the fruit of thy works. But now he turns again to his audience here in verses 14 through 17. So let me read those for us. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengthens man's heart. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, the cedars of Lebanon which he hath planted, where the birds make their nests. As for the stork, the fir trees are her house. So we have 14 through 17. Again, we're connecting creation and mankind and God's work and all that he's done. You look there in verse 14, he caused. And then in verse 16, he hath planted. So you see the causation here in verse 14, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. So he causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and the herb for the service of man. So God has done that, grass for the cattle, herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. Now, is the he there about men or about God? I think it's about God, because we go from that to, and wine that makes glad the heart of man. So he brings forth food out of the earth. That's sort of I think what that is a concluding statement. He causes grass to grow for the cattle, herb for the service of man. He brings forth food. So it's food for the cattle, it's food for man. God has done that work. So the very thing on your plate today, wherever you are, whenever you are today, if you're at breakfast time or at lunchtime, or if you're at dinner time, or maybe it's some snack time for you, because I know a lot of people like their snacks. Just remember, God did that. He brought food forth for you. And then we continue and expand on that idea there in verse 15, and wine and oil and bread. So wine, oil, and bread, he's done all of that. So we have the ingredients there of all that we create. We need the fat, we need the carbs, and we need the alcohol and the vinegar provide us, that astringent. Yeah, all of those things are needed in the creation of food. And it makes glad the heart of man, it makes his face shine, it makes his heart strong. So you see, all of that God has done. He is the great nutritionist. Not only is he the great creator, but he's the great nutritionist. The trees of the Lord are full of sap. So now we go from strengthening the heart of man to the trees. The heart of the trees, they're full of sap. But why? Because God made them good. The cedars of Lebanon, the fir trees, and we have the birds make their nests there. The stork, well, he's in the fir trees, and the fir trees are also strong. And he's provided that for the birds. So God is the great creator. He's the great nutritionist. He's the great caregiver of all his creation. Join me again next time, and we will look at Psalm 104, beginning in verse 18, here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.